The alien homeworld, Valoran, was a shining jewel of technology and order. Tall towers touched the sky, ships flew through glowing highways, and its leaders believed their place in the galaxy was unshakable. Stories about humans were laughed at, old myths, told to scare children or to entertain bored scholars. Earth, they said, was long gone, a failed species, weak, emotional, and foolish. Nothing more than dust in the archives of history. But the signal changed everything. One morning, without warning, a long-range sensor detected movement. Something massive was heading toward their system. Hundreds of objects, no ID tags, no response to hails, no known configuration. Their shape didn't match any known alliance or race. Just black silhouettes moving silently through space like shadows in a storm. At first, the Council thought it was a glitch, or maybe smugglers. But as the hours passed, fear began to creep. Into the control rooms, the fleet wasn't stopping, it wasn't slowing, and it was heading straight for Valoran. The High Command quickly assembled in the Sky Hall. The room buzzed with nervous voices. Defense Minister Raquel slammed his hand on the table. "Who are they? Why won't they answer?" "No idea," replied the sensor officer. "But they're close, less than 12 hours out, and still silent." Counselor Danath, a tall figure, known for his pride in Valoran's military power, sneered. "Send a diplomatic ship. If they're lost, we'll guide them. If they're hostile, they'll see what happens when you face the full force of the Empire." An envoy ship was launched. Painted in royal silver and blue, it was equipped with every known protocol for peaceful contact. Inside sat 3 envoys, 2 AI translators, and 1 high priest for ceremonial greetings. As the vessel approached the unknown fleet, it sent a calm message. "This is the Valoran Peace Delegation. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." No reply came. The ship tried again. Still nothing. Then, just when they were about to turn back, a single reply arrived. A short, cold voice spoke through the static. "We remember what you did." The words were in perfect translation. No name, no greeting, just that sentence. The envoys stared at each other. Confused. Nervous. "What did we do?" one whispered. Before they could respond, the feed went dead. Their ship powered down for 6 seconds. Just 6. But when it turned back on, all of their data had been wiped. Maps, messages, records, erased. Even the ship's AI had gone silent, replaced by a single image on the main screen, a red Earth, cracked, burning, with the words, "Judgment comes." The diplomatic ship returned in silence. No one inside spoke. The message had been clear. It wasn't a request. It was a warning. Back on Valoran, panic began to rise. Civilians were told it was a drill. But rumors spread fast. People remembered. Old stories, tales of ancient Earth, of a species that vanished after a galactic betrayal, of a people who once stood alone against mighty empires, of a world burned and forgotten. Now, it seemed, Earth hadn't forgotten. Aaron, the scholar who once warned the Council, was brought in. His face was calm, but his eyes showed worry. "You ignored the stories," he said. "You removed them from the archives. You called them myths, but they were never myths. They were records." "What do they want?" asked Counselor Danath. Aaron answered slowly. "They want us to remember. They want justice. They want us to feel what they felt." The military scrambled to prepare. Ships launched, weapons activated. Orbiting satellites turned toward the incoming fleet. But none of them fired. The humans hadn't made a move. They were just waiting. It was like a storm cloud hanging over a city, dark, still, and full of silent rage. Then something new happened. A single object detached from the fleet and began descending toward the surface. It was small, cylindrical, Smooth. It entered. Valoran airspace without resistance. No defense system caught it. It landed in the center of the capital without making a sound. Crowds gathered as drones and soldiers surrounded it. News feeds went live. The world watched. The object opened. Inside was a skull, human, marked with a red stripe across its forehead. And then a voice played from the device, deep, calm, unforgiving. This is for Terra, for the silence, for the betrayal. You left us to die, but we survived. We rebuilt, and now we return. The message ended. The device shut down. And with it, every screen on the planet went black for 60 seconds. When they came back online, the same red Earth appeared on all of them. From the edges of the stars, the fleet waited, not attacking, just reminding them. Humans never forget. Valorans had mocked the old stories. Now, they were living one, and it had only just begun. The planet Valoran stood proud in the center of its star system. Its people believed they were the most advanced race in the galaxy. Their cities were beautiful, their armies powerful, and their leaders confident. They often joked about humans, calling them a failed species from ancient times, a race that burned itself out and disappeared. Stories about Earth were told like fairy tales. Children laughed at them. Soldiers never trained for humans. Even schools removed old books that spoke of Earth's final days. To the Valorans, humans were nothing more than a forgotten shadow. But then came the signal. A deep space sensor picked up a fleet moving toward their system. Large, silent, no response. To hails, no identification codes. Just a wall of ships coming fast and directly toward Valoran. At first, the High Council thought it was an error. Maybe smugglers or pirates, but the numbers kept growing. Dozens of ships, then hundreds. Some were as big as cities. Others moved like shadows, vanishing from sensors and reappearing seconds later. The council called an emergency meeting. "Who are they?" asked Councilor Damar, eyes wide. "No known race," said the defense chief. "Their technology is unfamiliar. Their engines are quiet, too quiet." "Are they responding?" someone asked. "No, not a single word." That night, Valoran launched a diplomatic vessel. Bright and beautiful, it carried flags of peace and a crew of envoys trained in over 200 languages. The ship approached the fleet. Everyone watched. The message was clear and polite. "This is the Valoran Peace Delegation. We welcome unknown travelers. Please identify yourselves." Silence. The crew tried again. Nothing. Just when they were ready to turn back, a reply came, only 5 words. "We remember what you did." The voice was calm, cold, human. The envoys were confused. What had they done? What memory? What mistake? Suddenly, the screens on the envoy ship flickered. For 5 full seconds, all power shut down. When systems came back, everything was gone. No maps, no logs, no communication history. Instead, one image covered every screen. A burning Earth. Red. Skies, smoke, silence. And across the screen, one sentence appeared. "Judgment comes." The envoy ship returned home in silence. Everyone aboard looked shaken, pale, afraid. When the council heard the message, panic began to grow. They called back Aaron, the historian they had once laughed at. "You said this would happen," whispered Councilor Damar. "I warned you," Aaron replied quietly. "You erased their story, but they did not erase you." "What do they want?" the prime voice asked. Aaron looked around. "They don't want peace. They want us to understand, to fear, to regret." Just then, alarms rang out. Something had broken through the atmosphere, a small object, no weapons, no heat, just falling. It landed in the center of the capital without warning. No defense system stopped it. Crowds gathered. Soldiers surrounded it. It was a black pod, smooth, silent. It opened slowly. Inside was a human skull, marked with a red line across the forehead, and then a voice spoke from inside the pod. "This is for Terra, for the silence, for the betrayal. You left us to die, but we survived. We rebuilt. Now we return." The message ended. Every screen on the planet turned off for 1 full minute. When they returned, the same image showed everywhere, a red Earth, and the words, "We never forgot." Above them, the human fleet waited, not firing, not talking, just watching, waiting, and reminding them, this is what happens when you laugh at ghosts. The pod that landed in the capital square was small, black, and silent. But it had already caused chaos. People whispered in fear. Soldiers aimed their weapons. Leaders panicked. Inside the pod was a human skull, marked with a red line, and the message it played still echoed in everyone's minds. "This is for Terra, for the silence, for the betrayal. You left us to die. But we survived. We rebuilt. Now we return." Every screen had gone black afterward. Every voice had gone quiet. And now, the people of Valoran were afraid. The council met again that night, deep under the government palace. The room was filled with tension. "What do they want from us?" asked one leader. "Should we prepare for war?" asked another. General Victh, head of planetary defense, spoke with a hard voice. "They haven't fired. Not even once. But make no mistake, this is war. A war of fear, of memory, of revenge." Councillor Damar turned to Aaron, the old historian who knew more about Earth than anyone. "Tell us again. What did we do to them?" Aaron looked tired. "Centuries ago, Earth was part of the Galactic Council. But when war came, real war, the Council ran. Earth was left alone, bombed, burned, blockaded. You called them weak. You didn't think they'd survive." "But they did," whispered someone. "Yes," Aaron said. "And now they want the galaxy to feel what they felt." That same night, another pod fell. This one landed outside a military base. No explosion, just a quiet landing. The soldiers surrounded it. Nervous, guns ready. It opened. No skull this time, only a book. Thick, heavy, covered in old leather. The title was simple, The Forgotten Earth. It was a history book. Inside were pages of photos, names, and dates. Cities burned, families lost, messages from Earth's last days, pleas for help, for rescue, for justice. And on the last page, a message written in red ink. "You erased our pain, so we returned. To show you." The base commander sent the book straight to the council. It shook everyone. "We thought they died," whispered the prime voice. "No," said Aaron. "They evolved, in the dark, in silence. While you celebrated, they trained. While you forgot them, they remembered everything." Suddenly, screens across the planet lit up again. But this time, there was no message, only a countdown. 11:59 it had begun. People panicked. Was it a bomb, an attack, a message? Nobody knew. The humans said nothing. The fleet above remained. Still, dark like death itself, General Victh activated full planetary defense. Fighters launched, cannons charged, satellites scanned every ship above them, but nothing changed. The human fleet just waited, watching, silent. The countdown dropped, 10 hours left. Then 9, then 8, people started fleeing the cities. Others hid in bunkers. Some simply watched the sky, waiting for the end. News channels debated the meaning of the countdown. Was it destruction or something worse? Then, with 4 hours left, all communications across the planet stopped. No more internet, no more military, links. Even emergency lines went dead. A single message flashed on every screen. "Now you will feel the silence. Every system had been hacked. Perfectly. Instantly. No bombs had fallen, but Earth had shut them up, just like the galaxy had once silenced Earth. The final hours passed in fear, and when the countdown hit 0, nothing exploded, no ships fired. Instead, a deep sound played from every speaker. A heartbeat. Slow. Human. And then, a voice. The same voice from the pod. "This is not the attack. This is only the beginning. You forgot us. Now you will remember." The fleet above powered up. Their ships lit with a red glow. One by one. Thousands of them. But they still didn't fire. They simply began to move, not toward the surface, but around the planet, in perfect formation, surrounding Valoran, like a hand closing into a fist, and with that, the skies went black. The humans had surrounded the world, and they hadn't even begun to fight. The skies above Valoran were dark now, not because of night, but because the human fleet had blocked their sun. Ships larger than cities hovered above, their armor glowing, red like fire. No weapon had been fired, not a single bomb dropped. But the world below felt like it was already under siege. People whispered, "Is this how the humans fight? With fear?" In the capital, alarms screamed non-stop. Generals shouted orders. Soldiers stood ready. But nothing came. Only silence, and that made it worse. General Victh stared at the sky from his command tower. "They've cut our light, our power, our communications. And still, they haven't said a word." Counselor Damar joined him. "What kind of war is this?" Victh didn't answer. He didn't know. They all remembered the countdown, the silence, the heartbeat. But now came the red sky, and the world below started to change. In one farming city, the crops turned black overnight. In another region, machines stopped working. Entire power grids fried without any attack. Hospitals lost control of systems. Drones went blind. Defense towers shut down one by one. It wasn't destruction, it was control. The humans weren't just invading, they were taking over, piece by piece, quietly, perfectly. Then came the second wave of pods. Not just one, hundreds. They rained across the world, but not with violence. Each pod landed gently. Each one opened without sound. Inside every pod was one thing only: a memory drive, thousands of files. Old Earth videos, human voices, screams, last messages, children crying, soldiers begging for help. It was Earth's history, unedited, raw, painful. The people of Valoran were forced to watch. Every school screen played the footage. Every military base saw the battles Earth had once fought alone. Every citizen heard the last speech from Earth's leader. "You said we were weak. You said we didn't matter. But we are still here, and we remember everything." In one military academy, a young cadet whispered, "We did this to them?" Her instructor, once proud and unshaken, just nodded. Then came the final message, sent directly to the council. It wasn't a threat. It was a challenge. "You erased our story, so we brought it back. Now you will listen." Counselor Damar dropped the device in his hand. He couldn't stop shaking. "They're not just here for revenge," he said. "They're here to teach us fear." Aaron, the historian, stood at the back of the room. "No," he said quietly. "They're here to teach us memory." Just then, the floor shook. Not from a blast, but from a ship. One ship. It descended slowly through the clouds, larger than anything the Valorans had ever seen. It hovered above the capital. Black metal, red markings, and a single name written across the hull in bold, ancient letters: TSS Judgment. The people looked up, frozen in terror. Was this the flagship, the leader's vessel, or something worse? And then, for the first time since the fleet arrived, a new countdown began. Zrak 10, only 10 minutes, To what, nobody knew, and that made it even worse. The skies above stayed red, and the world below waited for Earth's next move, because now everyone understood something terrible. This wasn't the attack. This was the introduction. The ship called Judgment hovered above the capital, casting a giant red shadow. The countdown on every screen was ticking down. 0:04, 52, 0:04, 51, 0:04, 50. People stared in silence. Some cried. Others prayed. But no one moved. "It's psychological warfare," General Victh said, his voice trembling. "They're trying to scare us." But the fear was already winning. Then the ground rumbled, not from above, but from beneath, the planet's surface. The capital shook, windows cracked, water lines burst, lights flickered. "Earth's fleet isn't firing," a technician shouted. "This isn't coming from the sky!" Underground sensors flashed red. Tremors, deep, massive, unnatural. General Victh froze. "What is this?" Counselor Damar looked at Aaron. "What did they do?" Aaron didn't answer. He just looked pale. Too pale. The shaking grew worse. Buildings swayed. Alarms screamed. In the center of the capital, a huge section of ground caved in, and something began to rise. Not a weapon. Not a bomb. A tower. Black metal. Old Earth design. Covered in glowing red lines. It rose like a spear from the planet's heart. "How did they put that there?" Someone gasped. "They didn't," Aaron whispered. "They built it centuries ago. We just never knew." Everyone stared at him. He continued. "When Earth was cut off, when the Council left them, they had no allies, no hope. But they didn't give up. They sent sleeper ships, hidden missions. They buried warnings, markers, fail-safes." "You mean—" "Yes," Aaron nodded. "This world, it was one of their early colonies, long before Valorans claimed it. The humans hadn't just returned. They had been here all along. The tower activated. A pulse shot out, silent but deadly. Every Valoran weapon near it shut down instantly. Fighters dropped from the air. Tanks stopped moving. Defense systems turned off. It was like Earth had flipped a switch and owned the battlefield." The countdown reached 0. Oh, wow. And then came the voice, not from speakers, not from radios. It came from everywhere. "Phase 1 complete. We have reclaimed what was ours. You may still surrender." General Victh shouted. "Send the fighters! Launch missiles, now!" But nothing responded. Everything had gone dark. One by one, human ships began moving, slowly, like giants waking up. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. They were already in control. People across the planet realized a terrible truth. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was a reset. And Earth had come to take back what was theirs. Aaron stared up at the sky, voice shaking. "They waited for centuries. They warned us with silence. We laughed at their pain. And now—" He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Because the red sky above was now filled with motion. Thousands of dropships launching, armored, silent, deadly, coming down, and no one could stop them. The human fleet now moved like a storm, but not one that destroyed everything. Instead, it was precise. Targeted, cold, Valoran cities lost power, one by one. Command centers were taken over silently. Every satellite in orbit now showed one message. This was never about revenge. In the High Council chambers, panic turned to confusion. If not revenge, what do they want? Counselor Damar asked. General Victh had no answer. Even Aaron, the historian, was unsure now. The humans hadn't fired a single missile. They hadn't bombed a single city. They were controlling everything, without full war. And then it became clear. The humans weren't trying to destroy the Valoran Empire. They were trying to replace it. Across the planet, human banners appeared. Strange, old Earth symbols projected on buildings, skies, and screens. But this was the real message. The empire that forgot us will fall. The order we build now will never forget again. Valoran soldiers tried to resist, but their weapons failed. Their leaders couldn't speak to each other. Earth had jammed all channels. In some cities, Earth soldiers finally appeared, not thousands. Just a few dozen at a time, clad in black armor, silent, efficient. But instead of attacking, they entered government buildings, libraries, data centers. They weren't here to fight anymore. They were here to rewrite history. One Earth commander walked into the Grand Museum of Valoran history. He placed a small device at the center. It lit up, old holograms, flickered, changing records, erasing lies, showing the truth about what the Council had done to Earth 300 years ago. Aaron watched it all, horrified. "They're not just taking power," he whispered. "They're taking back the story." One by one, people began to see it, on personal screens, on public walls, across all networks. Images of Earth left to die, colonies ignored, ships destroyed, help denied. Children who had never even heard of Earth now sat silently, watching the horrors of the past, and with each image, loyalty to the Valoran Council faded. Some cried, some got angry, some even refused orders from above. A new voice filled the silence. "You forgot Earth, but Earth never forgot you." Suddenly, the humans offered something unexpected. A choice. Across the planet. Every citizen saw it. Join Earth's new alliance. Help build something better. Or resist and be left behind. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning and a promise. Earth didn't come just to punish. They came to lead. Counselor. Damar, trembling, asked quietly, "What happens if no one joins them?" Aaron answered, "Then the old empire dies. Alone." Outside, in the red sky, a new structure began forming, built by the massive human ships. It wasn't a weapon. It was a station, a hub, a sign, the new capital. And it wasn't Valoran anymore. It was something else. A name burned into the night. New Terra Command. The humans weren't here for revenge. They were here to start over, and now the galaxy had to decide. Stand against them, or stand beside them. The Grand Hall of the Valoran Council was silent, the same hall where, centuries ago, Earth's last call for help had been denied. Now the old council members sat in that same place, tired, afraid, and surrounded by shadows. Outside, Earth's banners waved in the wind. The human fleet hovered above like silent giants, unmoving, but unstoppable. And the cities below? Peaceful, controlled. No fires, no screams. No battles, only order, but not the Council's order anymore. It was Earth's now. General Victh stood by the window, hands shaking. "They didn't need to destroy us," he whispered. "They erased our power without firing a shot." "Counselor." Damar's voice was weak. "Is it over?" Aaron answered quietly. "For us?" "Yes." Suddenly the chamber doors opened. A human commander entered. He walked calmly. No guards, no weapons. His face was hidden behind a black helmet. But when he spoke, the voice echoed deep. "3 centuries ago, you judged Earth unworthy. You left us to die in silence. Today we return, not to beg, but to deliver our own judgment." Counselor Damar stood trembling. "Then judge me, judge us, but spare the people." The commander said nothing for a moment. Then he placed a small cube on the table. It projected a list of names, cities, colonies, ships, families. "These are the ones you left behind, the ones who died waiting for help that never came." Aaron's face turned pale. He recognized many. Some were part of Earth's earliest colonies. Some were his ancestors. The commander looked directly at them. "You mocked us. You erased our history. You laughed at our pain. But Earth remembered. Then, he pointed to the screen again. And now the galaxy will remember too. Outside Earth's message was being broadcast to every known system. Their full history, their suffering, their rise, their return. But most of all, their justice. Counselor Damar whispered, "So, this is the end?" The commander finally removed his helmet. Underneath was a calm human face, scarred, older, but full of focus. "No," he said, "this is the beginning." Behind him, a new flag was raised above the capital, not the old flag of Earth, a new one that united all who had been forgotten, humans, exiles, lost worlds, all now under the banner of Terra Nova, Eron. Tears in his eyes whispered, "They came not just for Earth, but for everyone we failed." Outside, dropships carried aid, not bombs. Human engineers helped rebuild systems. Children watched as old statues came down, and new ones rose. The people were no longer afraid. They were watching the future being born. And for the first time in centuries, Earth was leading it.